All right, I'm Johnny Scoville, and this is Chase the Heat. This is take two. I did a video a couple days ago where I talked about terms in the pepper world that you may not be aware of, trying to clarify some of the confusion. And there were a bunch of questions in that comment section that I wanted to address. Likewise, if you have questions on this, further questions, please in the comment section of this video, ask your questions and we'll address them. One thing I didn't talk about in the last one, which is absurd, is I didn't even talk about what capsaicin is. Capsaicin is the hot stuff that's in chilies that makes them spicy. This is the chemical formula for capsaicin, and it spells Johnny, which is kind of cool. But that's what capsaicin is. Another thing, there are color types of peppers. You know, chocolate, peach, yellow, bubblegum. They don't taste like bubblegum, chocolate, and peach. Those are just, it more just references the color. So that's what that's all about. Now, George Heilman asked a question. He said, when making tincture, will any pepper work, or is it beneficial to use a hotter pepper? I suppose you could probably make a tincture out of any pepper, but the hotter the pepper you have, the hotter your tincture is going to be. So, for sure, you want to go hotter if you're looking for a hot tincture, George. All right, now, Smelly Cat asked a question. Smelly Cat asked a question about hiccups. What are they, and what can you do about them? First of all, what hiccups are is irritant. From what I've read, it's just your throat being irritated by the capsaicin, and that's your body's reaction to it. I don't know why some people get them and some people don't. As far as what to do about them, you can just write it out. Don't let it be a hindrance to you, and don't think, oh, I have hiccups, so I'm broken, or I'm just... Listen, I've had contests, and I've said this in other videos, but I've had contests with world-class competitors in the chili game that hiccuped in the first couple peppers. They keep eating, the hiccups go away, and then they're back into it. So it's not an indication that you carry a weakness or there's something wrong. Don't let it stop you. I've never had hiccups. I kind of wish I did. It looks like they hurt and be uncomfortable. So, plus they're funny. Now, Bull Cow asked about Naga Claw. We talked about calf cramps in the last video. Naga Claw is an interesting phenomenon that happens, and I've only seen it happen in a few people. It's happened to me once or twice. Naga Claw, I think it probably happened for the first time with somebody eating nagas, and that's where the expression came from. But you'll eat a bunch of peppers and your hands will cramp, and you'll see people like this, and they can't even open their hands up. I've had pepper contests where the person I was competing against, somebody had to pass her the peppers because she wasn't able to hold the peppers up because her hands were like this. Here's the thing about that. The first time you're in a pepper contest and you see somebody doing that, it is off-putting. It's creepy. You look at the person like, my goodness, what is going on here? And it's really sort of a weird thing to watch. Again, it's not something that's going to hurt anybody. Thought I'd address that. All right, now. Kiss Fan, KMA Big Time, and M. Jord Jansen all asked similar questions. Kiss Fan said, what is the best way to prep? Jord Jansen said the best way to prep for a contest. And KMA Big Time had the same question. You're going to have to find what works best for you. The starchy stuff is good. It's going to help you a lot. The thing is, you just don't want an empty stomach because you want some layer of something, but really you want to sandwich it. You want something on your gut first, then you want the hot stuff, and then you want something on top of the hot stuff, kind of sandwiching it. So, but people say that starchy stuff like bananas are good, peanut butter and jelly sandwich is good. Some fellas, when I was in New Zealand at a competition there, some of the guys were eating creamed corn, like a whole can of creamed corn. Now, I've learned on big contests, like against Shahina with belt contests and any League of Fire contest, I don't prep at all. Because if I were to prep with something, I don't know. I see people eat like 160 peppers in one sitting. I couldn't eat 160 olives in one sitting. It's a lot of food. So if in a big contest, I'm expected to eat 50 or 60 peppers if I plan on going to the end. I can't, any space that I have in my stomach that's got prep food in there is space that a pepper could fit. And with me on a big contest, being full is an issue. So on big contests, I don't prep at all. just is what it is. And it's a, you know, it's a catch-22. You're going to hurt more, but you can fit more peppers in your stomach. So anyway, Joseph Work asked, how many peppers does it take to get an endorphin dump? That is a great question. Joseph, it's really subjective. It really depends on the chili head. For instance, if somebody has never eaten a hot pepper in their life and you give them a habanero and they eat it, they're going to get an endorphin dump from that. I assure you. With me, it's like late in the pepper season, one pepper ain't going to do it for me. It takes a handful for me. So really it depends on your level as a chili head. Here's a good rule of thumb. Whatever you're comfortable with, you're going to have to do double that. So if you're comfortable with like a habanero, eat a couple of them, and it might work, and you might get an endorphin rush. If you're just at jalapeno, going to habanero will do it. So there's no formula of how many peppers. Like in the beginning of the pepper season, it takes a whole lot less pods to get me an endorphin dump than it does at the end of the season. So it's really very, very relative depending on where your tolerance is. All right. Jerry Wilson asked, is floral and bitter similar, the same flavors? And I want to talk about that. I should have covered that in the last video, but I didn't. Floral, it's really funny that when I first started the channel, I used to describe floral as being perfumey. And you know, through experience in eating a million peppers, I've realized that's not really so, perfumey is not the right way to really describe it. It's more of a very flowery, you know, aromatic and flowery. Now, you know, and it translates differently. Like floral in a pepper is a very different experience than floral in a hot sauce. You know, floral in a pepper is very different than floral in a powder. They kind of hit you different on a fresh pod. But so floral is just very, very, the reason they call it floral, it's floral-like. It's like very flowery, very aromatic kind of. So that's the flower. Now bitter is just what you think. It's just a very bitter tasting. Now one of the flavors that is very common in super hots is bitterness. It just comes with the territory a lot of times. So bitterness is just what you think. It's just a bitter flavor. Now sometimes you'll get pods that are just floral, like the pod I ate the pod I just uploaded a little bit ago was very, very floral. Sometimes you'll get floral and bitter together. Every once in a while I'll get a pod that's sweet, then it turns to floral, then goes bitter. So there's a whole bunch of flavors that they can happen individually, they can happen all at once. Sometimes you can get a pepper that just tastes like pepper. It isn't floral, it isn't sweet, it isn't bitter. It just has a strong pepper flavor. But those are very, very different flavors, the floral and bitter. You know, early on in the channel, if you ever go back and watch videos from season 1 or 2, even into season 3, I struggled eating floral pods. I really did. It would make my gag reflex go, and my body wanted to reject it. And over time, I've gotten to a point where I really like floral pods. I mean, it's a strange thing because I never, ever would have thought that was going to happen to me because I really had a problem with it. So it's something, it's a taste you can acquire. Right, you've heard of the acquired taste thing? Jamie Lord made a correction. I want to thank you for that. You know, I don't know it all. At all, people. I said in the last video that bird's eye were from Africa. It's not. The bird's eye pepper is from Asia. So thank you for that correction, Jeremy. Jeremy Shelton said, once you have calf cramps, what is the best thing that you can do to deal with it? What can you do? It's kind of an interesting thing. Once it happens, that's why I always say, I've said this on the show probably 100 times. You can always eat more capsaicin. So if you're not hot enough and you want more of a burn, you can always eat more. But once you've eaten too much, you're committed. You're strapped in, and you ain't getting out. You're in for the ride. So it happens to every chili head. What will happen is you'll get to a place where you're starting to get confidence in what your tolerance in your mouth can handle. You start getting confident. You'll be somewhere, usually with friends, sometimes having drinks, and somebody will have a jalapeno or a habanero, and you'll eat it, and your friends will be blown away, shocked that you could eat that pepper. And then you'll find yourself saying, oh, I'll eat another one. And what ends up happening is your mouth will write a check that your stomach cannot cash. Your mouth can handle the heat, but your stomach hasn't caught up to that tolerance yet. And then you're committed. So once the calf cramps happen, what can you do? You can try to mitigate the pain by drinking some milk, some dairy. This isn't a pleasant thing to talk about, but you can try to evacuate them by making yourself vomit. That sometimes can help. Sometimes if the cramps have started, it's too late to vomit anything up. But really, it's kind of like this. You've heard people say, like, if somebody's drunk, will drinking coffee help them? Or if somebody's had too much alcohol, the only thing that's going to help them sober up is one thing: time. And that's really very, very, I'm sorry, but it is what it is. It just takes time. So you can do a few things to lessen it. Like I find with me personally, it may be different for you, but laying down seems to make the pain much worse. All right, so laying down is a problem. I think that when the waves come in, it's when you turn, the capsaicin is moving through your intestine. I don't know, it's just a thought I've always had. If you're lucky, college boy, that lucky guy, college boy sleeps through cap cramps. I happened to me once I ate something really, really hot and the cap cramp started and I had this absolute wave of exhaustion. Like I had a migraine a couple of times, only a few times in my life, and when the migraines happened, I got fatigued to the point where I just had to shut my eyes and immediately fall asleep. And it's like I had that happen to me once with capsaicin. So if you're one of those people that can sleep through cap cramps, you're blessed. I find the best position for me to be in if it's really bad is in an egg position, kind of curled up into an egg. You'll find that your knees will want to drop to your chest because you're cramping. It's like you're cramping, everything's pulling together. Breathing, controlling your breathing. A really important thing to know when the cap cramps begin: you're not going to die from cap cramps. If you could die from cap cramps, we wouldn't be in season 7 right now, okay? Or, we wouldn't be at all. So, just knowing that you're not going to die from it is a really important thing. Because the first time you get a really, really bad cap cramps, it's terrifying because you've never had them before. You're like, is this going to kill me? Because it sort of feels like it's going to. But knowing that it's not going to kill you to me, helps the whole process a great deal. Jeff Shaw asks, when you dehydrate pods, are they still as hot? It's been my experience when you dehydrate pods, it does not alter the heat whatsoever. When you cook pods, it does not alter the heat at all. Sometimes when you cook with pods, the temperature heat will add something to the heat from the peppers, the capsaicin, and it sometimes can give it the feeling that it's hotter than it really is, but that's due to the temperature and not really once the pepper when a pepper reaches it, whatever Scoville it's got is all it's got. You can't get more of it, that's it. So dehydrating peppers are not going to hurt the heat. SFRB, single flat rate box. Somebody asked what that is. That's a lot of times pepper growers will send pods in a single flat rate box. They'll pack as many pods as they can do in there. A lot of times most often nowadays, they'll label them, unless it's very obvious what the pods are. But that's a single flat rate box. Storing peppers. Once you have peppers, because a lot of people are buying peppers, they want to get into this. They want to start chasing the heat and have their first pod season. So if you're experiencing your first pod season, or you're about to buy a box of pods and they get to you and you think to yourself, well, how am I going to eat all these? How do you store them and can you freeze them? And what happens when you freeze them? First of all, as far as storing peppers, the best way to store them is going to be just leaving them in the fridge. If they're in a Ziploc bag, open the bag. Don't seal them. They need to breathe. Truly, Ziploc's not the best thing to put in there. If you have a paper bag, it's better. But leaving them in the fridge is going to prolong their life. If you leave them out, they're going to rot much quicker and degrade much faster than if you have them in the fridge. So and some growers are amazing. There are some growers that will pick the pods the day they send them. I've had pods sent to me from Australia. When they got to me, they were in fine shape. They were delicious. Aaron Giorno, thank you. I've had pods sent to me from Germany. So if the grower picks them at the same day and ships them the same day or the day after, you're going to be in good shape. You should get a couple weeks out of it. But putting them in the fridge will lengthen that a little bit. And then the last question is, can you freeze peppers? And if you do, what changes with them? Nothing you can do with the pepper is going to change the temperature of the heat, the SHU, the heat. So if you freeze a pod, the Scoville units are not going to change. The flavor of the pepper is not going to change. So you have a pod, you stick in the freezer because you don't want it to go bad. You decide later, hey, there's no pods around. I have that frozen pod in the freezer. You can dehydrate that pod. It'll take, thaw it out. It'll take no time to thaw a pepper out, a couple seconds. What happens when you eat a pepper that's been frozen, it's like eating a slug. It's slimy and the texture is nasty. Tastes the same, burns the same, but becomes a texture problem at that point. Some people don't have a problem with that. Here's the thing, if you're gonna cook with pods, matters not, so freeze away. And the truth is, if I had a choice between eating a thawed out frozen pod or not eating a pepper, what do you think I'm gonna do? I'm eating that thawed out pod, whether it's got the texture of a slug or not. So those are the questions that came about from the last video. If you've got some questions, really it's about anything pepper related or your journey as a chili head. If you got a question in this video, put your question. This will become a weekly thing because it seems like a lot of people, if one person's asking a question, there's a ton of you that have the same question. There's no such thing with a person with a question that nobody else has. So if you've got a question you want to ask it. I promise you there's 100 other people that have the same question, so please do that. But thank you for all your time watching this. Thank you for the questions you guys put in. In the description box, all the normal stuff, the bust the boat, more videos there. Oh, and I'm Johnny Scoville. This was Chase the